your soul settles. Because you are walking that path. Not only that you are on truth, but you know that you are interacting and connecting with this multi-dimensional universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for you. This surah, Surah Al-Rum, basically goes through two things, or two aspects of things. If I may borrow, and I'll finish with that. Number one, obviously, the relation of the mu'mineen and the believers with earth and heaven and what's between them, and connecting the believers not only to the world, but to the hereafter as well, and to talk to them about the nations before them, to show them some of the past that they don't know. The reason for that is saying, what's the importance of history? Why do I have to know about Ad and the nation of Thamud and the nations about pharaohs, and the nation that lives before us? Why is that so important? Because people who have not benefited from their history will have a lost future. Because we are all humans. We share with Pharaoh, and we share with Thamud and Ad, and all these nations that lived thousands of years ago. We share with them that we are humans. And because we share that we are humans, as if the Quran wants us, Surah Al-Rum wants us to appreciate some of the human lessons that other nations have gone through and learned. So we can learn, correct, get up and move in the right direction. Otherwise, we will be repeating the same mistakes. Because people, since we are leaning towards materialism so much, as if the Quran wants to shake our soul, Surah Al-Rum wants to shake our soul, to make us contemplate, look, just because you don't see them now, it doesn't mean they didn't exist. And just because you don't think about their existence, it doesn't mean that those thousands and millions of people that existed and you don't know anything about them, just because they're faceless and nameless to you, but they have lived on this earth before. And they had their own lives, and they had their dreams, and they had their visions, and they had their goals, and they had their relatives, and they had their loves, and they had their hates. They were people just like you, who had lives planned out and drawn. You know how people draw, this is what I'm going to do in the next 5 years, and the 10 years, and the next 20 and 30, and all the dreams and hopes and things and the plans they had. They were also people like that. Just because they are nameless and faceless to you, it doesn't mean they didn't exist. You know why? Because one day, we all will be nameless and faceless to the next generation that will come. And just because we will be, it doesn't mean to that generation that will come few generations afterwards, it doesn't mean we didn't exist. And it doesn't mean we don't have dreams and hopes and plans. And it doesn't mean we don't have feelings. Though we will all go, all of us sitting here, we will go and we will degenerate our bodies. Those beautiful things Allah created will degenerate in that soil. And we will be part of that sand that people step on our faces, parts of our eyes, and parts of our everything that we are about. Just because we will be nameless and faceless to people in few hundred years, probably even less than that. It doesn't mean we didn't exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Rum wants to put you in touch with that. To realize these things, because it's extremely important. Because connecting with that, then you can understand the resurrection. When Allah talks about it in Surah Al-Rum now, that we will be resurrected. Life will be given to you again. But then that life, when it's given to you again, you are now about a judgment. You're about to be accounted for what you have done. And therefore Allah in Surah Al-Rum now takes through the believers through some of the scenes in Yawm al-Qiyamah. And what happens in Yawm al-Qiyamah. And some of the scenes of what happens to the believers and to the non-believers as well. And then takes us back from this ride and this exposure and opening to what will happen to the believers and non-believers in the Day of Judgment, to come back to this universe again, and to try to shed light on some of the miraculous creations Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did, and how this miraculous creation and the laws upon which it was created, it has to do with our iman, so it strengthens your iman. So it revives your heart. This also leads us, the Surah Al-Rum wants us also to sort of shed light on the silly argument of the kufr, shirk, on the illogical argument. Because you say, how come? When Allah is talking about how this universe is, and how this creation is so meticulous, and how everything is created upon laws and rules, that everything runs and spans in specific orbit based on specific rules and fine measurements. This is illogical. It's a mathematical approach to things, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting to us, only to tell us how we can look at the call of the kufr and shirk and non-belief as it's totally illogical. It does not make sense even when you compare it to all these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created and how things run. But somehow the arguments of the others are always not based on logic when it's convenient. You see how the arguments of kufr and shirk is based on the desires of the self and how things go. So one time it's logic, when logic is not convenient, it's a matter of faith. When matter of faith is not convenient, it's a matter of reality. When matter of reality is not convenient, and you go again on it. So, it's a matter of this and it's a matter of that. And you see all these things, how they go, where they're not really founded on truth, nor are they founded on reality. This part of the ayah basically ends with directing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, directing the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam to remain and explain this true path, the path of haqq, the path that people were created to follow freely, the path that is not subject to following desires here and there, nor is a path that is subject to change depending on the circumstance. In the second aspect of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sort of exposes the nature of the human beings and the nature of the self and the nafs, and how people could be so ruthless and careless if they are not bound to a divine message. Because then, if there is no divine message, as so many people believe, then everything is okay. Everything is fair game. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show us the Surah Al-Rum in the second aspect of it, how life then becomes almost limitless as far as what you can do and transgress upon, if there is no standard that is not subject to the desires and to the greed of people and to the wants of people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously then goes through giving us the scenes of rahmah and the scenes of that Allah is the one who gives rizq and provisions and sustenance, and shows us that those people who worship other than Allah, those things do not give you anything, do not give you any rahmah. There's no sakina, there is no spiritual comfort anywhere. The comfort zone is with being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As if Allah in the surah then shows you that even rizq and sustenance, you think they give you? You think that company X, Y, and Z gives you? You think because this and that gives you? Allah wants to show you in the second aspect of the surah, of Surah Al-Rum, that this is only by Allah. Don't be fooled by the reason. Don't be fooled by the concept of classic conditioning, as psychologists and psychiatrists say. Just because the knife cuts